All right, so I sat through the potatoes' 18 minutes of rambling, so you won't have to. And we're going to react to this together because it's a bit of a doozy. A lot of the same tired talking points and proposals that have been trotted out before, well, they're back. And some of them have been shown to be quite palatable for members of the GOP. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Do something. Just do something. For God's sake, do something. If you own a weapon, you have a responsibility to secure it. Every responsible gun owner agrees.
Okay, so let's go ahead and deal with this one right here. First and foremost, if your firearms are all stored in a position where none of them are readily available or for use for immediate self-defense purposes, you are automatically at a disadvantage. And if you don't report it stolen within a certain short window, that's also another charge, and you could be held liable as well. So, yeah.
Make sure no one else can have access to it. To lock it up. To have trigger locks. And if you don't, and something bad happens, you should be held responsible. We should all.
But you should not be held criminally liable for someone conducting criminal activity with something that you own, period. I don't understand that. If someone were to steal your car and then run people over with it, are you going to be held liable? It's a good question, right?
We also have national red flag laws so that a parent, a teacher, a counselor can flag for a court that a child, a student, a patient is exhibiting violent tendencies, threatening classmates.
So this is an interesting one here. They're really pushing for the red flag stuff, and we've seen that the GOP is all too willing to pass this type of legislation. 19 states, and then when you include Washington, D.C., so there are 19 governments within the United States that have already passed this into law. And one of the things that they might be looking at the national level is a yellow flag law, which would empower law enforcement to be the ones to make the decisions as to whether or not you are competent or rational and whether or not you should own a firearm. So you combine that with the digital registry that they're already creating with the 4473s that ATF is making right now. It's really not a good combination of things.
Or experiencing suicidal thoughts. Fort Hood, Texas, 2009.
Now, the reason I left that in there, it's really interesting that he would invoke a literal terrorist attack as one of the reasons why we need this type of legislation in place. He was radicalized by his religious beliefs and then carried out an attack on a military installation. And he was a commissioned U.S. Army officer. And we've seen these type of attacks occur on U.S. military installations, but typically from foreign forces who were there for pilot training or something like that from a Middle Eastern country. And that didn't stop those individuals. They were literally foreign nationals who gained access to a weapon and then went on a rampage. And the policies that were enacted under the many years that you have been in office were the reason that soldiers on bases have been disarmed and are presently disarmed in most cases. And it's inexcusable that you would put people who are highly trained, people who would put their lives on the line for this country, at a tactical disadvantage by preventing them from keeping arms on post.
13 dead and more than 30 injured. If we can't ban assault weapons, as we should, we must at least raise the age to be able to purchase one to 21.
So here's another one that's really worrisome. And we've already seen several states do this or try to do this, where they have effectively said that you're no longer a legal adult until you're 21, but you can vote, but you could join the military, but you can't protect yourself or your family at all or adequately until you're 21 years of age. Yet simultaneously, now there's talk of wanting to lower the voting age to 16. Tim Pool hit on this the other day, that they're likely really fixated with that 16-year-old age for other more despicable reasons. And there are countries just south of us where that is the legal age of consent. So keep that in mind. There's a reason why they're likely fixated on that number. But at the same time, they don't want you to be able to protect yourself. It's kind of incredible. And there's too many young families and young people out there who have kids or who are starting their lives who are already at a tactical disadvantage when you say that, oh yeah, you have no right to protect yourself, your domicile, your loved ones. But yeah, you can go join the military. That's fine. Now, you won't be able to protect yourself on post or anything, but yeah, no, that's fine. Whatever.
We should repeal the Liability Shield that often protects gun manufacturers from being sued for the death and destruction caused by their weapons.
Okay, now this one is ridiculous because this would open everything up to being sued. Any misuse of a product, you could now sue the manufacturer of said product. So if someone were to hit people in a crosswalk, now you could sue the automotive manufacturer. This is not how we want things to work in this country because literally no one will be in business. The amount of lawsuits that will continue to occur, it would prevent any innovation or small companies from even being able to get a start because the moment someone misuses one of their products, they're only liable for all intents and purposes, at least the civil end, I should say. And they'll be sued into oblivion. And there'll be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and that'll be it. That'll be it for the economy. Not that they seem to be worried about that. And I'm going to touch on that more in just a moment with one of the things he's about to say.
Even before the pandemic, young people were already hurting.
Now this is true, but he has ignored now the plight of several generations who are absolutely struggling, who have been unable to run for office because your generation will not give up the halls of power. You should have passed it over to Gen X and millennials, but we have found ourselves in a position where we have been in economic recession after recession after recession. We were never able to build the wealth that your generation was, and you guys are literally sitting there in the halls of power, completely senile, unable to follow a teleprompter, slurring your words, and you're telling me, and you're telling us that we're the problem in essence, right? Got it. Yeah, the real problem is we have never experienced economic prosperity. You have created untold numbers of ticking time bombs right now because people have been locked up and shut down, and the upcoming generation right now who literally needs speech therapy because of the policies that your party pushed across the whole nation, it's really despicable. These kids are literally falling behind. So we're going to be dealing with the financial ramifications of this for many, many generations, and there's no telling what they will do when they begin to come of age and they are still behind their peers, how they will react to that. Do you think they're going to be amenable to that as the science has come out with all of this? No, they're going to be very angry people, and you fools created this.
There's a serious youth mental health crisis in this country. We have to do something about it. That's why mental health is the heart of my unity agenda that I laid out in the State of the Union address this year.
Now, the other thing, too, that they really want to hammer with this mental health aspect, as I said, they want that red flag, that yellow flag law. They want people to go out of their way and make determinations who aren't qualified, by the way, to make these determinations that you're mentally unfit to maintain what's left of the highly regulated Second Amendment, because they want to be able to use this against anyone who they deem to be politically not on their team. We've already seen the Attorney General of the state of Florida revoking people's carry permits who were affiliated with a certain large protest in the Capitol. So we can see how they're going to weaponize these things against the masses who don't toe the line.
Expanding background checks to cover nearly all gun sales, including at gun shows and online sales.
Now, the 4473 confiscation forms, as they're going to be inevitably used for, those forms are required to be filled out anytime you buy a firearm from a licensed dealer. So if you're at a gun show, you buy a firearm there, you have to fill out the standard form just as if you were at their retail shop. Same thing. And online sales, as far as that's concerned, you have to have firearms mailed to a licensed dealer's place of business and then conduct the background check in order to have that firearm transferred to you. So this one is complete nonsense. The thing that he's attacking here is the idea of private sales in general. That would mean, for example, I have a firearm, you want to buy it, maybe I see your concealed weapons permit, or I already know you. I have no reason to believe that you're a criminal or a felon. In most states, I can now transfer that to you.
Getting rid of the loophole allows a gun sale to go through after 3 business days, even if the background check has not been completed.
Now, this is a big one, and it's something that I dealt with in Colorado, and it's something that you need to be very well aware of. Currently, if your state does not have a state-level investigation, if nothing has come back, for example, they put a temporary hold, within 72 hours, nothing has come back. It basically forces the federal government to do their job. They will release the firearm to you. Now, if the state has a state investigation, for example, Colorado, they will hold on to that firearm indefinitely until they are able to clear it through the state criminal background check system. So you pay for multiple background investigations, and it also delays your ability to take possession of that firearm. So if someone is going out attempting to acquire something for self-defense, maybe they don't own anything yet, maybe they're having to deal with all the insanity that a major political party has created over the last several years, where there were over 2 years of very peaceful events all around the country that caused trillions of dollars in damages and at least 30 deaths that we're aware of. Yeah, no, you should definitely want to prevent people from defending themselves in those situations, which goes right back to his suggestion that people should be limited to the capacity of 10 rounds, for example, which is not standard in most arms anymore. It's just not. That's absolutely a small number for a modern firearm. And there are a lot of firearms that exist today that don't have magazines designed for them of a limited capacity. So you would actually have to modify standard capacity magazines down to 10 rounds, which could cost you money if you were to take it to a gunsmith. In addition to that, the reliability of that firearm is likely to be impacted because now you're modifying those magazines, which would really render that particular firearm a lot less useful, and I wouldn't carry it for self-defense. For example, when I was up in the Northeast, I carried a wheel gun most of the time because a lot of the pistols that I brought with me, I didn't have, nor was I going to spend the money to modify what were $50 and $60 magazines and then spend another $20, $30, $40 to have someone effectively pin those in place to 10 rounds, rendering those magazines potentially less reliable than they were originally. So you actually create multiple disadvantages for people. You're forcing them to spend huge amounts of money right now in the middle of all of this, and you're also making their self-defense tools less reliable. So it's a pretty despicable thing. Not to mention the idea of potentially having to turn some of the stuff in. Yeah, good luck with that. We saw how much compliance there's been around the world. New Zealand, for example, there was basically zero compliance with what they just pulled, and I found that kind of funny when he was sitting across from their prime minister recently. It was praising them for their policy. Well, they were smart, unlike Australia. They didn't have any real paper trail of who had what.
Safe storage requirements, the banning of high capacity magazines, raising the age to buy an assault weapon to 21, federal red flag law, codifying my ban on ghost guns that don't have serial numbers and can't be traced, and tougher laws to prevent gun trafficking and straw purchases.
So that one's a big deal right there as far as the ghost kits are concerned. They're already going after them right now. ATF has already gone after several companies who have been selling these kits in tandem with the components needed that you would have to assemble and put the whole thing together. So for example, if you could buy the slide, the barrel, the triggers, the rails, everything else from one place, and the 80% kit, they have actively shut some of these places down, and there has been some word that some stuff has been seized from dealers. There was that email put out not too long ago encouraging inspectors to begin taking some of these items off of the shelves of dealers. So that has already started, and the rule on that is going to come down very soon, that essentially home-built arms will be regulated in some capacity. Now, if you start from a 0% kit, there's really nothing that they can do about it. So there will always be a way. Life finds a way.
This time, we have to take the time to do something. And this time, it's time for the Senate to do something. But as we know, in order to get anything done in the Senate, we need a minimum of 10 Republican senators. I support the bipartisan efforts that include a small group of Democrats and Republican senators trying to find a way. But my God, the fact that the majority of the Senate Republicans don't want any of these proposals even to be debated or come up for a vote, I find unconscionable.
So that's a big one too to keep in mind. There are a number of Republicans who are too happy to cross the aisle, and they will absolutely work to restrict our rights. It's very important we keep the heat on, just like we did many, many years ago. I would encourage you to go out, get involved with organizations that actually do the work, that put in lawsuits, that have lobbyists at the state and national level. Gunners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, your state rifle association, do your due diligence into these groups before you donate money. I think you'll be pretty impressed. And you need to keep hammering email inboxes, making those phone calls. Let them know you will not stand for additional infringements upon your rights, because the longer we delay in organizing, the more hesitation we have in getting loud, the more and more restrictions we're going to see on our Second Amendment rights. So get involved and stay involved. Stay on top of this information. If you want to stay up to date with all this, make sure to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification button, and stay tuned for more updates. I've got a full-length, feature-length video coming up very soon on Monday on active threat response. I'm waiting on YouTube to undo some things that they have put into place that would prevent that video from getting wide distribution. So we will see. It's kind of interesting that this platform would attack responsible self-defense. Thanks for watching.